bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into a special edition Misfit podcast. It is Monday, October 27th. 1 week from today, Monday, November 3rd, is the beginning of phase 2 of our off season for our competitors. We do this podcast to make sure that you guys know what you're about to get into, sort of create some details and some narrative surrounding all of the work you have to put in. And as I mentioned last week, here in the coming weeks, we will do a scary season episode, but you are about to head into the kind of territory that separates kind of the amateurs from the professionals. So the kind of people that can stick it out and keep stacking bricks during this period of time are the ones that are going to be able to hit the ground running in competitive season, and the ones that disappear into the abyss and then show back up for phase 3 are going to be pissed off again, just like they probably were in the last year. So we'll do more content surrounding that, but we definitely acknowledge that scary season is upon us, especially with all the holidays and all of that good stuff. Before we get into the details, a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of live chat, and then we'll do our deep dive into phase 2 programming. Only piece of housekeeping that I have is Paige and I are off to Scotland. I actually think she might be in Scotland right now. I've got a red eye tomorrow, and we'll be at Rogue, so make sure you guys pay attention to Misfit Athletics Instagram. We'll keep you guys posted on when she's going to be competing. Should be a good time. Rogue always does a fantastic job, so looking forward to that. Hunter, live chat. What's up?
What's up? I suck at golf, dude. I'm so fucking bad. I'm not bad, but I'm just not
good.
I'm not good for sure. Yeah, it is. We are 4 days away from the end of the handicap season in the New England area. So,
yep.
And to that, I'm pretty happy about it, to be honest. Like, I'm currently working on some things. Probably a great segue into this podcast, to be totally honest. Just working, trying to do both the like work on something, but also pay attention to your score and try to achieve the best score possible. A little bit of kind of training and testing at the same time, if you will, and by doing both, doing nothing.
Advise that.
It's so crazy how terrible I am at taking my own advice, despite knowing better as a coach, knowing what I would tell like a client who's in the same circumstances. The ability to take your own advice or do what you would tell somebody else to do is
why we need coaches.
Just so fucking hard.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I guess looking forward, I think I just need like a little mental break, and then I'll be looking forward to like kind of scary season golf edition. Trying to get into a hitting bay or even behind a hitting net and work on some things that I think are.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
That could connect the dots. What if there was open gym? What would you do if you could go to an empty golf course to practice? Would that be different? Like you drop
I honestly
a handful
do
of
that
balls
somewhat regularly.
Okay.
Like, and I'm assuming you're meaning like that, because that's a driving range, right? Like, you mean going to a golf course?
I mean if you could do it on the course. Because
I'll
do
that
on the course, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll do that. Like I had for a while over the summer when it was dark enough, late enough, because I finished coaching at, I coach at 5, coach till 6. Realistically, don't leave the gym until like 6:30 probably. And when the sun set, at 8:30, I could go out there and I'd book for just myself. I'd be the last one out there, and I would post up like on the first fairway. And that's how I got myself better at like certain shots. So I spent time practicing from 40, 60, 80 yards out. And that's exactly what I do. I just take a bag, like a little cinch bag, a little shag bag, and hit 20 balls, go pick them up off the green or across the street, depending on how belated I blasted my wedge. But yeah, I would do that. And like, I'll do that. I probably should do that a little bit more. I started doing it more at the end of this year, where like, instead of actually counting 9-hole rounds toward my like handicap, I stopped doing that and I treated them more like practice opportunities. But it's still like, it's literally in the moment of like, okay, like, you're 150 yards out. Like, do I work on the thing that I'm trying to do in my swing that might yield an abysmal shot? Or is it like, yeah, I'll do that on the next shot and I'll try to hit it onto the green. And it's like, again, it's you're training, it's are you doing your percentage work with the snatching, trying to like, make the bar move really, really well? Or are you saying like, yeah, but if I could just hit this number for this triple, then I'd be stoked about it, and it looks like shit, but you hit it, but you kind of feel bad about it, but you still hit it, so it's not that bad.
Sure.
That's kind of where it's at. So I'll definitely do that. We'll do that type of practice on the course. I did get yelled at for doing that because I would just hit quite a few balls out of like the same general spot on the fairway. So someone was like, you need to stop taking like a chunk of divots like in the same spot. I was like, that's fair. I knew I was wrong. Yeah. Fuck you, but also I know I'm wrong. So
sure. Yeah, that's a forgiveness situation, right? Permission forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, I need to man, the amount of time I've spent doing CrossFit, it's so weird because I always thought of myself as being like having a very, very good understanding of the idea of core to extremity, which I think I do in the CrossFit context from a rotational capacity. The like ability to dissociate your lower half from your upper half in like a swing sport of any variety is like really throws me off. Like I can do it sometimes, but a lot of times
significantly more variables. Think about how complicated it is to like actively pull up and under and move your feet as your elbows start to bend, and that's significantly less complicated than a golf swing.
Yeah, very much linear. It's like almost like two-dimensional movement versus like, there's a rotational aspect, there's a lateral shifting aspect, there's a front to back shifting aspect, and it's just like very foreign to me as far as sports that I'm familiar with. Even hockey, like even hockey not quite as demanding. I mean, that's all of golf, whereas hockey, that's a small part, but like rotational sequencing is kind of the mission for the year.
Yeah, I would say that part was more normal for me, coming from like basically everything that I did was throwing or swinging.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of it there. And one like gift that is part of something complex like that, I find, is that when you do figure it out and you do nail it, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Like when you really learn how to use your lower half when throwing something or time something up, to the point where you like in baseball, a lot of it's like a few little tricks. Cause for me, my problem was I was early with my hips. Like being a fast twitch athlete, I had to be really careful not to throw my hips early because your power's basically gone at that point.
Yeah.
So you can literally, the same human can go from my hips are early, so I just like hit a blooper the other way to like hitting bombs by waiting a little bit for your hips to come through.
I think I had like diagnosed that as my problem previously, where I was like getting my hips too far ahead of my hands in like the rotational component. And I think that was an error. I think that was incorrect. It might have been the case that was happening, but like I suck at like rotating in place almost like, because in the golf swing there's like a shift, like you like you're a pitcher, like, and anybody can like visualize this, like a pitcher like on the mound, right? Like their arm is still going backward like behind them as their lead foot is like planting forward,
right? And
then it's like the hip opens up, the hips are opening, like that arm is moving forward, and that kind of catapult trebuchet type effect happens. And maybe I was doing the hip portion too early, but I rotate so poorly. Like, it's not like a rotation in play. It's like the equivalent of like a good golfer would be like a 0-turn lawnmower, and I'm like a 1980s lawnmower that needs to take like a 40-yard like
you get a great turn radius,
like a pivot. Yeah, it's not a tight turning radius. And I just like can't figure it out. And to your point, I know that I have hit balls where that is the case, and how much easier and more fluid, and like the power, like you don't have to swing harder, right? It's just such a more efficient transfer of energy and force into like the club and the ball.
The other correlation I can think of is just because when I was at Crash in South Carolina, I played basketball at the hotel for like a half hour, and it's the same thing with a shot, like that release.
Yeah.
Like, even from further away, it was like, that's going in. And you can tell like There are golf shots probably that you hit where you're like, I don't even need to fucking watch that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That came right out of the middle. That's going where I want it. It's just like I need to make that more than 1 out of every 20.
Okay, so when we get trolled for live chat, there's sort of 2 ways to take it. We can cut down on live chat, or we can talk about golf for 11 minutes.
Or we can double down.
Yeah, that's half joking. You know who you are. Listen, when we don't do live chat...
They troll me? Did they troll me on my
golf
talk?
No, it's us. It's us. It's like, I think it's when people tune in for an information, like a specific, they see the email come through or they see the post and it's like, oh, I want to learn about pulling gymnastics.
Yeah.
And then I'm yelling about Aaron Rodgers. The funny thing is the majority of the listeners, so if you're one of those people that's listening right now, it's like, fuck, will you tell me about phase 2? The majority of our listeners, when we do more like bulleted list type podcasts, tell us that they're boring. And they get a lot less listens. So we got a loud minority situation. One of these days, you'll be able to like click a button that just takes you to us beginning to talk about it, but I don't fucking know how to do that. So
I think that exists already. It's just
fast forward.
Too bad. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just to press the up button.
So I can't give you guys an update on the Steelers. I didn't watch last night, and that will be my live chat why I didn't watch.
Do you know who won?
Their
is this
defense
like a spoiler alert situation?
Historically bad. No, they got their ass kicked.
Okay.
I have a red eye to Scotland, and my darling 2.5-year-old son got me sick. So I told you guys in the meeting that we had this morning, it's elderberry and zinc and turmeric and fucking echinacea and chicken soup, and I'm going hard.
Yeah, you got that Venus intergalactic taint scrub with the crystals.
Yeah, I got it all.
You got a crystal up your nose balancing on a beanbag.
The red eye's rough, fully functional. So I'm intrigued about how I'm going to feel Wednesday when I arrive.
Yeah.
I think I go Philadelphia to London.
What's the actual Boston, Philly, or Portland, Philly, London at like 11 p.m.?
And then London to Aberdeen. But I choose, so I could do Boston to Amsterdam or Boston to London, then on to Aberdeen. But fuck the bus and all that, especially on the way back. No. I would rather just get on the plane from New York or Philly and
when you like do the
Portland.
math on that, it's like between the time it takes, parking, and also welcome back to the United States. Here's a 2.5-hour drive home. It's like, kill me.
Yeah. That's a hard pass. So yeah, I didn't stay up and watch the game because I'm trying to not be sick. There's a 50-50 chance I'm going to feel good tomorrow morning when I wake up. I'm going to put it right at that. Because I felt a little bit better this morning, but like I don't feel great right now. Like
you don't sound terrible.
I keep taking my jacket off because I'm too warm and then I'm too cold. So we'll see. I'll report back in a week about whether I survived.
So I mean, you're less susceptible to picking something else up over the next week, so you might actually come back unharmed.
I'm definitely immunocompromised,
right?
But I think through nannies and children, I've been handed a few strains of things here in the last 3 months, so I might be good to go. We'll fucking find out. All right, phase 2. Here we go. You guys had to listen to 14 minutes and 53 seconds, although when I delete the ums and ahs and silences, it probably was only 12 minutes. So there you go. We're going to open up with how to choose your program and some FAQs like we always do. This is for kind of the new listeners, or this is to convince people to follow the correct program and follow the instructions on the program. That might be everybody. So choose your program. When you go to sign up on Strivey or Fitter, you're going to have the option to sign up for Pro. This is the smallest group that we have. This is semifinals and CrossFit Games athletes. That's it. Your ego,
if you will,
is not part of this conversation, right? Like we get signups somewhat regularly, and then I look them up on games.crossfit.com, and I try to do my best to be like, hey, thank you so much for signing up. And here's
12th in the world is just not gonna do it.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking for like 100th in the world. So here's how you know that I'm trying to give you sound advice. It's more expensive, and I want you to not sign up for it. Okay. So as a business owner, I will accept less money for you to get better. So that one's pretty cut and dry. Our comp program is sort of where everyone else fills in, but which program you follow underneath that is important. So Hatchet is going to be for our open and quarterfinals athletes. The instructions, when you're reading them, are going to talk to you about complete lift 1 and conditioning 1, something to that effect, and then add after that. If you're an open athlete, we don't need you to add anything. If you come in and you get a good strength cycle on the stuff we're going to talk about today, and you get a good conditioning piece, and maybe on the weekends you add skill, add an accessory, or the days that you have off during the week, that's great. That's where we would want you to start. An open athlete needs intensity and some strength development. So you don't really need to add anything. If you're a quarterfinals athlete, especially one who is aspiring to go to your first semifinal, that's when you're going to be adding stuff and making sure that you're following the skill progressions, in that if the stuff in the reps column is a weakness, that you're getting those low intensity sessions in to sort of check that box off. But there is a pretty wide spectrum, and that's why we have both the scaling and the equipment modifications on that program. Next is our master's program. Again, almost entirely cut and dry. A lot of our younger masters, 35 to 39, are on Hatchet. One, because it's a little bit more appropriate for kind of how insane their division is, honestly, at the CrossFit Games. And two, they're probably going to have a few more training partners. And last but not least, we have our GPP program. Always just want to throw that into the conversation here, because we have a program that is for people who don't really care too much about competing, or just have a really busy schedule and they want to get stronger and get fitter and kind of be done with it. So that GPP program is there, and it's available as part of comp, or you can get it for cheaper as a standalone program. And last but not least, times two, we have our affiliate program. We did have some people contact us about the sample, and they were like, wow, I really love this, but I want it for myself and not for an affiliate. Can I get a discount? The answer is no, you cannot, but you can sign up for GPP. That is the point of GPP, for you to be able to come in and follow that program. But we have an amazing affiliate program, teammisfit.com. Click on sign up now, and you can do a 2-week free trial at a few of our different programming partners. So into the FAQs, the variable training system is something that Misfit Athletics was actually based on when it was started. This idea that one size fits all is probably not going to cut it. So throughout the episode, you're going to hear us talk about things that are mandatory versus non-mandatory. The non-mandatory stuff is the way that you can personalize your program. I need to work on my volume bench pressing or my positional overhead squat. Things of that nature. I have non-mandatory bitch work, non-mandatory metcons and intervals. That's what I need to work on, that sort of thing. And again, we don't want to add volume for the sake of adding volume. So that spectrum from I'm an open athlete and I just want to go in and crush these open workouts, to I'm a high level quarterfinals athlete and want to get into that top 2000 and be eligible for semifinals. That's when we're probably looking at people adding daily to personalize their program, unless it's one of the days that has kind of a lot of mandatory volume. Accessory work is one that we get asked a lot, and I always talk about this through the situation of ideal and realistic is the spectrum. So ideally, if you're following a lift progression and it's a weakness, you are following the accessory work every week that it's available. That's going to help sort of round out the strength development, the mobility, stability aspect of what might be needed within the lift. But we're not sacrificing conditioning for accessory, would be one of the things that I would always kind of put out there. So an example would be, I want to follow the non-mandatory speed back squat session, but I don't have time to do the accessory. Should I just not do either? The answer to that is no, you should still do the speed back squat. And I think it maybe is like split squats or something like that. If you don't have time to do it, it is what it is. We're not going to sacrifice the mandatory pieces, the stuff that we need for accessory work. But if you do have the time and energy to do it, it's the kind of thing that really rounds out the program really well and helps you actually get stronger over the course of the 9 weeks. Last but not least is our skill column and our reps column. If you're a quarterfinals athlete, the mandatory skills should be done twice a week. We'll have, for the Hatchet program, we'll have bar muscle up and muscle up and handstand push-ups. There's going to be a progression that you guys are going to follow sort of outside of test retest week. That's going to be mandatory for you. If you're an open athlete, is it a weakness and do I have time to do it, would be the way that you audit that. And then the other 3 days of the week, there's something called reps. And reps is a not for time quality session where we are taking a look at the week of programming and saying there aren't any dumbbell snatches, rope climbs, bar facing burpees, whatever it is, the kind of movement that comes up regularly in the open, in quarterfinals, that we feel like someone would need exposure to if it was a weakness. So that's when you choose that. Some people use it as like a superset with accessories. Some people use it as a warm up. That's kind of freestyling a little bit. But if you see that and you have time to do it, kind of check that box off, grease the groove a little bit, get used to doing a movement.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add to like kind of the Hatchet and open athlete segment here is you just have to remember, like, and maybe you're new to the program or you're just jumping on here, you have to remember that like you kind of start almost like Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind sort of thing. So like if my goal is to qualify for quarterfinals, for example, like having an understanding of what you need to do in order to make that happen is really important. And I don't necessarily mean like what scores you need to have and what numbers you need to hit. It's a broader concept that you need to be able to go really, really hard once a week for 3 weeks. It's not a weekend-long competition. Qualifying for that stage of competition doesn't require you to, 8 workouts over the course of 3 days. Like, sure, you might have to repeat a workout or something like that, but there's an athlete at our gym who's because they reestablished quarterfinals, said that his goal is to qualify for quarterfinals. And like we had conversations, and I was like, okay, well, tell me what you're doing right now. And it was like he's got a little bit of time on his hands, and it was a shitload of training. And it was like, hey man, like, you getting after it. I understand the concept that like, hey, I need to just put in the work. And there is an element of that, but it's like first things first, your body composition is not where it needs to be in order to compete at this level. Like, you could do all the training in the world. If we don't change this, it's not going to matter. And then once we can get that under control, this idea that we're going to be training, like, you got a track session, you've got like a zone 2 session. And it's like, again, like maybe we can find a place to slot these in, but the understanding that what you need to be able to do is go really fucking hard once a week for 3 weeks. That's it. And anywhere from like 4 to 20 minutes at once. That's it. Like, I don't need you to do agility sessions. I don't need you to ruck. I don't need you to like, those things are helpful from a GPP perspective, but as far as like knowing what your goal is, like, you got to kind of look at that first and say like, if my goal is to get to semifinals again, like knowing that you have a legitimate chance, then it's like, okay, well, like eventually I'll need to be prepared to perform multiple workouts over the course of a weekend. But for the majority of listeners who are, going to qualify for quarterfinals, and that'll be the extent of their competitive season, what you do to get there is go really fucking hard once a week for 3 weeks. And that's kind of the foundation. That's where you should start off when you're thinking about like, am I doing additional accessory work? Am I, this extra piece looks really fun. I'm going to rush through my lift, get through that first Metcon. That way I can get all 3 done. And it's like, that's not it. You're Hunter on a golf course trying to fix his swing plane while also trying to score. And it's neither of them work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're going to go through the strength work again. The non-mandatory, mandatory thing is going to be related to what everyone is going to be doing, and then how you can personalize your program. Because the majority of the people listening to this podcast follow Hatchet, we're going to talk through all of the programming as if you're following Hatchet, and then just a quick offshoot and say, hey, if you're going to do pro, this is what the difference is. So mandatory lifting in phase 2, our 1 rep max peaking lift is going to be the squat clean. We just did the volume back squat phase, and we just did a bunch of positional work within the squat clean. We are bringing those together to create what is hopefully a very successful squat clean phase. Now, what I did, Hunter, is I copied and pasted the first session of the progression here, and it helps tell a story of what it takes to get good at Olympic weightlifting in the context of a CrossFitter. So the squat clean is 1x1 at 60%. That's right, 60. Then 8x3 at 55%. You're going to drop and reset on those triples. So we get 24.
That's the second session, eh?
What's that?
That's the second
Yeah,
session.
there's that one in test week that's a bit of a like welcome to the jungle, but this is going to be that first session after your testing where you have your new percentage to go off of. And the question is, you just alluded to whatever it takes is a little bit different for different athletes. Whatever it takes might not be rucking and agility drills. It might be, holy shit, I need to figure out my chest to bar pull-ups. And that can be quite a boring undertaking in the wrong mindset. I need to do 24 beautiful squat cleans at 55%. Because not only am I getting stronger through volume, I am teaching my body that this is the way that we move at 55%. So then when I go to move at 60%, I can do the same thing at 65% and 70 and 75% and so on. And if you really buy into this and you don't move it like it's light and you over pull and you don't move your feet, or you're jumping forwards, you're jumping backwards, you really think like this is an opportunity for me to move really well because it's easier, you're going to have a chance at a monstrous PR at the end or at some point during the season when the stakes are high enough for your adrenaline to come along for the ride. But you could have 2-3 weeks of throwaway sessions if you're not committed to doing this. And I can tell you, we've been doing this for long enough that I know that going triple, double, single, super heavy 3 separate times over the course of the phase does not work as well as this if you can buy into this idea and move really well twice a week.
I have a question, and this is actually partially a genuine question, partially like I have my own answer. I'm curious as to yours. So a 55% squat clean, let's say that I'm getting ready to do this session, and we'll say 275 for me. So it's probably 151. There's a lot of ways that I could do 3 squat clean, like a lifting session, 3 squat cleans at 100. One way is I can pull the bar off the floor with like not slowly, but like a normal speed. And I can either pull myself under the bar. I could short my hip extension a little bit and pull myself under the bar quickly. I could do what maybe an Olympic weightlifting athlete might do on their as part of their warm-up, which is like borderline like a power clean plus a front squat. So like kind of the opposite end of the extreme there. Or I could theoretically do almost like a tempo pull in order to get the positions right from the floor into my hip and then execute the clean. So I could do this session in 3 different ways. The notes here says perfect movement, actively pulling yourself under the bar. What would you given my 3 scenarios, what would you tell me to do, and what would you tell, what would you tell an athlete to do?
I think you have to set a standard for yourself, and then the goal is 24 reps at said standard. So if you've got your camera set up and you're about to do a triple and you want it to look beautiful, can you do 8 triples with a full speed first pull? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, I probably have too much of a dynamic start anyways. I got to slow this thing down a little bit, because the majority of CrossFitters overpull. You're taught, and you unfortunately do maybe some muscle cleans, you do some power cleans where you're basically getting the bar as high as possible and then letting it slap you in the chest. So like, that's the way that I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about this standard. Like if I received the video from someone and it was like, you're just moving too quickly from the floor to your hip to be able to do this right, we got to slow it down. But what I don't want is to put in that tempo standard where someone you're going to get to like 85% and things are going to feel weird because you've never really learned to leave your arms long and use your legs in the first pull.
Yeah.
So I'm watching for repeatability more than anything. And that's not that hard for even the naked eye to, right? Film your first set, and then when you're, a handful of sets in and you're doing your 1,000-meter flush on the bike, watch your first set, watch your fourth set. What does it look like? Are you starting, is your ass shooting up? You got that early arm bend, like that kind of thing. So that's how I would set that standard, but I definitely want it to be a full squat clean because people actively pulling under the barbell is a lost art in the CrossFit community, I'd say. Luckily, the pulls are just so strong from all the other stuff that we do that you can get away with it in certain instances, but it's like a get away with it until you can't. You show up at competition and your 1 rep max is 20 pounds less than what it should be because, again, you get the bar as high as you possibly can and then fall and hope that everything's going to be okay. Everyone will be really excited to hear this. We have volume back squat work. We are back to some lovely linear progression here. So you're going to be doing sets of 12 until you can't keep adding weight, and then sets of 10 until you can't keep adding weight. And, some people will make it pretty damn far in the 12s, and some people will message me 3 weeks in and they're down at the 8s and they're like, what do I do now? So, man, this takes your new legs from the back squat that you just did, and it really adds a GPP component to it. you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck within these sessions, especially if you move pretty well. We are working on your technique within the snatch. So basically, we've got the season flow of let's get their legs under them with the back squat. Let's peak their 1 rep max squat clean, a little bit less technical. And then as we lead into the open and quarterfinals, next phase, you will be peaking your snatch. So we're going to make sure that your technique throughout the positions feels really good. You really understand the timing of the snatch. You understand, the active pull under, your footwork, all that good stuff. Last but not least, for mandatory, we got a little bit of maintenance work here. We have the speed bench press. You guys are going to be doing the lower the bar under control, press it up like it owes you money. If you do that for all of the reps, you get stronger. Your central nervous system doesn't take as much of a hit. Kind of standard velocity training there. The only gray area that we have in the program is the heavy push press is mandatory on pro and non-mandatory on Hatchet. And there are some people that are just there's pullers and there's pushers basically. And there's some people that are blessed with the ability to put a barbell up overhead or handstand walk or handstand push up and all those things. And they don't need to donate a second session that's going to be in place of a second conditioning session basically. And then there's a lot of people who are the exact opposite that need that session to stay in there. We have the handstand push-ups in the phase, so that's one of the reasons why it's non-mandatory on Hatchet. You're going to get a decent amount of pressing. There's pressing accessories, but that's the way that I would think about this. Like, I need to continue to follow the progression of developing my press from strict to push press to split jerk, and this might be one of the ones where, like, I would tell an open athlete, like, maybe find time in your week if you're struggle with pushing to put the heavy push press in there.
Yeah, I think the push press is a super underrated training tool for both strength development, even skill transfer into some of the gymnastics movements and stuff that we do. It's one of those, and I think it's a good complement to the horizontal bench press work that's done in the phase.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now we're moving on to non-mandatory. So again, this is the way that you're going to be able to personalize your program. Here's what we don't want. We don't want a la carte week to week adding lifting sessions, right? This is the sport of fitness. If you want to a la carte, I got extra time today, do more fucking conditioning, please. But we have the push press as non-mandatory on Hatchet, and then the rest of it. One thing that's new this year based on some work that I've done with some remote clients is the positional overhead squat. There are just people that are not comfortable in an overhead squat at the bottom of a snatch, that sort of deal, and getting them some time under tension in that position. Honestly, so much of it is about where did like your body parts go, right? Like you just have so many people that like to sit back and do an overhead squat. And the only person who I coach that has their arms growing out of their back that can do that is Paige. And I still don't want her doing it, but it is possible somehow her body adapted to a low bar overhead squat, basically. So the positional overhead squat really is just about spending time in an uncomfortable position, figuring out where you should go, and hopefully that with the positional snatching sets you up a little bit better for phase 3 and going heavy there.
Yeah, I think I was just going to add that if you're somebody who struggles with snatching, like just in general as an Olympic lift, like doing both of those things, like the mandatory snatch positional work on day 6 and also doing the overhead squat stuff on, what is that, day 1, day 6. Yeah, so sweet, kind of bookend the week. I would do both for sure if you can fit them in.
And you can also, if it's a question of, one of the reasons why we're recommending certain things and not certain things is if it's a question of energy, you're probably going to be fine after overhead squats, right? I put limiters, I put like a governor on some of these things to make sure that they end up being closer to a skill session. Luckily, you going at the bottom of an overhead squat might feel uncomfortable, but it is not going to wreck your central nervous system.
Yeah.
That shit's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think too, like, I hate suggesting that it can be treated like a skill session, but like
it should be.
In a lot of ways, yeah, it just is. It's in the lift. It's going to be filed under lifting, but it's like, it all comes down to intent, right? It's like, if you see it as a lift and you're just like, okay, how heavy I can get, it's like, we're missing the point. Kind of half-ass it and don't actually focus on a skill component of it and stay light, then it's like, well, you're also kind of half-assing it. So it really comes down to like the intent, like that you, the athlete, put forward into it. Like, is there a deliberate focus on the movement quality or positions? And if there is, like, awesome, like, with the weight is at that point pretty negligible, and you're not going to beat yourself up.
Yeah, and you're like, if you should be doing it, you're probably searching for that line a little bit of like, I need the resistance, I need enough resistance, my body needs enough of a challenge to figure it out without failing. And then if you can go too heavy, why are you doing
probably
positional
don't need it
overhead
to
squat
begin
work?
with.
Like, go do your overhead squat holds and call it a day, that kind of thing. Positional deadlift. So this is one that we've been doing for a while. I really like it for, once again, pullers and pushers. Some people like to latch their fucking hands onto a barbell and stand that bad boy up. Feels natural. They use their posterior chain and their grip and their upper back to kind of lock it in place. And then there's the rest of us. And I find that the deficit deadlift forces the deadlift to become what we call the earth press, where you're basically just connecting your upper body to the bar and then trying to drive your legs through the floor. And holy shit, why does this bar move up? It almost when it's not natural to you, it almost feels wrong doing it right, because you want to pick it up. You want to pick up the barbell, and that's just not what this movement is.
No.
And I found that as long as it's safe for someone to stand up onto a plate, that this forces that first pull to be leg driven. The bar to the knee uses the lower.
And you have to set up a camera for this. The number of people who will get into like what you can't even we need to do like a elevated deadlift for some folks who just can't keep their back flat. But like, you have to set yourself up. Do you have a range in there? Yeah, 0 to 2 inch deficit as needed to maintain a safe position. Like, you can't again, it's just like, you get into you stand on the 2 inch plate, you're in a dog shit position, grab the bar, you earth press. It's like, you're not doing it. It's like every rep you're doing here, you're putting like bad motor pattern, energy expenditure. Stop that. Set up yourself, film yourself. Can you actually get into a good position? Is it just a temporary mobility restriction? Is it a broader, more like global issue of mobility that you can't get into a good position? Or, and if you don't know, like, put the video in Telegram.
Yeah, for sure. Another little maintenance piece here. I've had people over the years that just need that back squat volume to stay at a certain place. It's like I found that some people have if you don't use it, you lose it situation with the back squat.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way I consider, even though it's like the opposite, I consider speed work to be like the zone 2 of the lifting community, because it's like, as a coach and a programmer, how do I add volume to your programming without fucking you up? And that's the way that I use this. So if I need maintenance, obviously if I need an athlete to be more powerful, that is a specific solution. But we can go in here and we can get, I don't know, Hunter, can you pull it up? Is it doubles? Is it triples? I'm trying to remember what
week 2, day 5 is doubles. So
yeah. Okay. So it's doubles. So is it 8 by 2?
60%. Every 90. Yeah. So 8 sets.
Yeah. So you get 16 back squat reps. Lowering under control, standing up as fast as you can. That's the kind of stuff that just helps move the needle, grease the groove, keep your back squat
sets.
strong.
Sorry, not 12
that
minutes,
kind of thing.
12 sets.
Okay, yeah.
24.
I thought it was 24. It's usually 8 by 3 or 12 by 2. So if you need to be more powerful in the back squat, or you're just one of those people that needs a little bit of that maintenance, fantastic. And then we have some volume bench press. So we're sort of keeping in the mode of, I have speed bench, which is kind of paired with the push press, and then I have handstand push-up skill every week, and we're going to do some volume bench press to keep moving your shoulders through perpendicular planes, to keep your shoulder healthy, to keep you strong, that kind of thing.
I would just say with the back squat, it's a similar story to like the overhead squat thing, right? It's like, if you kind of just do it, 24 reps at 60% is not going to do much for you. If you follow the instructions and try to move the weight as fast as you can, like, that's the implication. And this is where, like, the difference between, are you just kind of doing what's written versus like applying a little bit of intention to what you're doing. It's like, again, 2 reps at 60% is negligible for most people, but if you stand it up as fast as you can, by the time you get into set 6, 7, 8, you can physically feel like that weight starting to move a little bit slower.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to bitch work here. Our zone 2 bias for Hatchet is the Echo bike. This is another one of those ones where it's like taken me a long time to arrive at this place. I've done it a lot in remote coaching. The Echo bike requires exposure therapy, and I've always, as a programmer, been bothered by the lack of nuance in an Echo bike without the
You
dampers.
weren't a fan of Echo like Zone 2 work for a while.
Yeah, and it doesn't work through the same mechanism in my mind, but it does work. So I'm not as focused on like local musculature development. It is a movement pattern that we are going to spend a significant amount of time working because it requires a significant amount of time to get better at. Like knocking somebody up an RPM or 2 RPMs is like a year or two of work. Yeah, it's a lot. And it makes such a huge fucking difference. I can tell you that right now. So we're going for exposure therapy here. We're going for like, you're going to get better at the Echo bike because you're going to sit your ass on that thing. And, you know, if you're following the instructions and you're one of those people that has time to do it for 90 a week instead of 60, 40, or whatever you have time to do, that's going to make a really big difference. So we're going for exposure therapy there. On the pro side, you're going to be doing rowing. I don't need to explain to you guys why you need to be rowing. That person that you mentioned from the affiliate that's doing Zone 2 sessions, if you're at an affiliate and you're doing Zone 2 to get yourself to a place in the open or quarterfinals, better be on a fucking rower. That's when it becomes less cute, right? You don't get to jog. You don't get to ride a bike. You get to get blisters on your hands. That's what you get. So that's what we're doing on pro. The aerobic bias for Hatchet is going to be rowing. Don't need to tell you why. You just did Zone 2. Now we're going to work on your aerobic rowing. And then, spoiler, there might be a little bit of rowing in the anaerobic bias too. Pros are following that sort of the number one thing that pros need to be good at throughout the course of the season is running. And the number one thing that open and quarterfinals athletes need to get better at is rowing. So we're following that sort of progression of Zone 2 to aerobic. The anaerobic bias for Hatchet is CrossFit. What does that mean? That means you get to do cube staked again. Cube staked is a zone 2. Cube staked is a cube test
Not Zone
with
2.
CrossFit in it. So you're basically doing a cube test where you're doing rowing, wall balls, bar facing burpees, and double unders, sort of with a rotation of what the max set is each time. And then over the course of the entire phase, it is a lot of stuff that looks just like the bitch work that you've always been doing, but like half of it is rowing and the other half is double unders, or the other half is bar facing burpees, or the other half is wall balls, that kind of thing. This serves so many different purposes, but it is necessary for athlete IQ purposes. So many of you move well in these movements and have an absurd level of GPP, and your brains get fucking scrambled when these movements come up. And part of it is intentional, I think, or intelligent by whoever's programming some of the tests, where it, you know, either is so out of the realm of possibility of what you've trained before that you don't know what to do, or they know better that this combination is going to yield one of those kind of unicorn stimulus situations. So what do we do in those scenarios? We put you through every fucking situation we can think of. You get to row every week in your aerobic work, or every other week in your aerobic work, and then every other week in your anaerobic work, you get to row and see how that balances out with these other movements. So we want movement efficiency. We want athlete IQ. We want you guys to maybe test yourself a little bit on your athlete IQ. And they're all intervals. So you get the opportunity to say, well, fuck, that was a bad idea during my 2.5 minutes of rest, and I'm going to fix it by doing X, Y, or Z. Or that was a little bit too easy, which is fine. You know, go get after it in the next round, that sort of thing. But there's going to be a lot of guessing and checking related to this, because you don't get to just stare at the rower monitor the whole time like you would in another phase.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I'll add, is that the totality of the bitch work?
We'll talk about power output, but that's going to take 3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, actually I'll go back to the Echo bike threshold test in Zone 2. Got it from your perspective. It's maybe a little bit more of a like exposure thing. I have done a lot of Zone 2 work on an Echo or assault bike because I like, part of it is it's easier to get my heart rate into that zone than it is with the local muscle fatigue of the C2 bike. Part of it is that I don't like the C2 bike and I'm not a competitive CrossFitter, so I get to do what I like instead of what I need to do. But it is a really, really good tool for zone 2 work. And it's far less demanding on your lower half and much more of a like actual aerobic.
It's not complicated. You kind of just get on it and do it, and that's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It kind of, yeah, for sure. Exactly. And I do like I have nothing other than the empirical feeling that like I still feel pretty fit after doing that for a little while, both in my like lower half, and there's the smallest amount of pressing that goes into it. Like if you're actually using your upper body,
you
the
have
whole
to,
time,
you have to think about that part though.
There is a small element of like upper body stamina that comes with doing the zone 2 work on an echo bike or an assault bike for a long enough period of time. So don't just think of it as like if you heard Drew say like, because fuck them, that's why. Like it's
right, yeah.
It's not completely that. It's some that, but
yeah, some of it is that. Last but not least, non-mandatory for both, or I should say all programs, is C2 bike power output. It's just another thing. Again, like if I was following a competitive program, which would be a terrible idea, but we'll use me as an example, and I was skipping basically anything to see how high of a wattage I could get on a C2 bike, then my bias is ugly and showing. So there are just people who love to put the hammer down on these machines and they're comfortable with doing it and they can express power. And there are people who struggle with it that kind of need to take their medicine for lack of a better term. And that's what it's going to be. So you get to do the lovely 50 cal test and then you would just follow the progression throughout and try to get better on the test on the back end. Ow. Sports specific. All right. So if you followed phase 1 and you listened to the podcast, you probably noticed that you were doing a workout with both movements in it and in the skill every single week. I've been really happy with the feedback that I've gotten from that. And it's not all just, I want you guys to get better at toes to bar in October. I want you to see what happens when you follow a progression on the skill side that is very linear. You can understand why it might be useful to move really well at 55% in your squat cleans and develop sort of things over time. I want you to understand the value of variance. I did 75, 95, 115, 135, 155, 185, 225 front squats in this last phase. And the reason why my squatting in Metcons feels better, my thrusters feel better, whatever it is because I'm using a well-rounded approach. I'm doing my back squat strength work and I'm doing this stuff in Metcons and I'm doing my zone 2 bike, and all of these things are kind of coming back together. When there is a little bit more clear of a path that takes you through something like that, I think you understand how your program is working. I think you understand a little bit more about skill development. And as the season goes on, these skills will either become more complicated or more difficult. And you need that tool in your toolbox to be able to come out and say, okay, I'm going to put my ego aside and I'm really going to work on this thing. And at the end of 9 weeks, I can feel pretty good about it because I took my time and actually improved on it versus sees brick wall, runs through brick wall. On Hatchet, we have, so just basically a slight nuance between Hatchet and Pro on our Metcon skills. We've got snatch, bar muscle up, and muscle up on the Hatchet program. And then on Pro, we have snatch, rope climb, and muscle up. So kind of standard there, not too much of a difference. So obviously kind of got a pull there. But on the Hatchet side, there's been a pretty significant resurgence of the bar muscle up. And there is a pretty big skill gap on the bar muscle up, something that I think also needs a little bit of exposure there. So again, you'll have a test that has those movements in it. It just says snatch. It's mostly power snatch, but you might encounter a weight that you got to squat snatch over the course of the phase, kind of as you're going through it. There's a couple of workouts that I can think of where you'd either have to love pulling or you're going to have to squat snatch a little bit. And because the skill sessions could have multiple movements in them, you're going to notice a little bit of a rhythm to that. So you'll have like ring muscle up, then ring and bar together, then bar muscle up. And you'll kind of rotate through that way. Actually, that's not true. So it would go muscle up, both of them together, then ring muscle up again, that sort of thing. Because the ring muscle up is typically where you're going to see that need for the weekly exposure to improve and sort of build there. So you're going to see both of those things weekly. And then in the interval and skill, same sort of concept. Interval test will have handstand push-up variations in it. And then you're going to have a workout with handstand push-ups and a skill session with handstand push-ups every single week. And that's going to be the same for Pro, Hatchet, Masters, all of the programs. And there's basically just nuance in how many variations are there between your kind of standard wall-facing, strict, deficit, kipping handstand push-up, how many reps you need to do between each program, like that kind of thing. But you're basically following, all of the programs are following something very similar related to the interval and handstand push-up skill work.
One, I'm pretty curious and to see how especially for Pro, mostly because you and I talked about that one probably the most, the muscle up and the rope climb progression, how that works out for folks. But for the Hatchet folks, ring muscle up and bar muscle up, there's almost more like we're putting almost more onus on the Hatchet athlete than the Pro athlete, because the Pro athlete's in a way a lot easier to program for, right? There's a narrower band of what is like we know what a Pro athlete can do versus like a Hatchet athlete who could do, I could do 5x10 unbroken bar muscle ups and someone else who's like, I'm working on triples. So I think that in the skill progression, just looking at the kind of the skill sheet you have here, it's important for Hatchet athletes to you have to write this shit down.
Yes.
Because every week, there's a range, and the expectation is that the intensity is going to get higher. So the number of sets that you get asked to do is going to slowly whittle down, but that means that we're looking for more reps per set. And when we give you a range that says 6 sets of 3 to 6 unbroken muscle ups, you have to know, because when we say next week it's 6 sets of 2 to 4, you have to be able to build your own progression a little bit here if you don't have a remote coach. So writing down what you're doing in order to be able to follow, put yourself through a linear progression is important.
Yeah, for sure. And we have those notes in there. So to give an example, do you want to read one of the sessions?
Yeah, you want me to read first one, second one?
Sure. Yeah, read the first one.
We'll go do the first one is just ring muscle ups, 6 sets, 3 to 6 unbroken muscle ups, flush on the echo bike between sets. We're after volume over fatigue, so don't push the rest periods, meaning great, you did 3. We know you can do 3 more right now. Don't do that. Get on a bike and flush.
Yeah. So when you guys are doing this, the expectation, like Hunter said, is 6 sets will become 5 sets, which will become 4 sets. And we want those numbers to increase every single time you do it. So it's not just I got, I bet I can eke out 5 reps here. Are you going to be able to do 6 the next time?
Yeah.
And 7 the time after that, that sort of thing. So we do have the range in there. And listen, if you're good at these movements, the high end range is very specifically written for you, right? And honestly, when it comes to niche skills in CrossFit, there are going to be people in the Hatchet program that are better at some of these than people in the Pro program. That's not out of the realm of possibility. A lot of times, not as seasoned athlete just doesn't have the GPP, but they have, just crazy ability to link together muscle ups, bar muscle ups, that sort of thing. So the high end range is actually in line with what the pros are doing, but I'm not putting that out there as a challenge. If you're already really good at them, I would love to see you knock a rep or 2 off of that and just move incredibly well. Because that's the thing that you're going to need to rely on when you go to retest and you're in the shit and you got to back up for that large set of muscle ups. Under fatigue, am I going to let my body trick me? I'm not going to use my hips anymore. I'm going to pull early with my arms. I'm not going to get my dip, that kind of thing. So that's what you're really fighting at the end of the day, is not in these pristine conditions, can I do a set of 7? Is can I do a set of 4 that looks pretty damn good when my heart rate's at 180? So yeah, that's phase 2. It's again, maybe a good rallying cry here. One of the reasons why I made that post, and I'm going to lean back into the idea of the idea of rain or shine. It's fucking monsoon season's coming up, boys. It's just the time of year, and again, it's probably the clock's changing. I know how things change a lot for us up here, right? The clocks are changing. You basically I work in a casino. I go in and it's dark and I leave and it's dark. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but it's that time of year where if you can just stack these tiny habits and victories on a day-to-day basis, you're gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel at some point and be really fucking glad that you stuck with everything, that you followed the progressions, that you didn't take 3 deload weeks over the course of it, that you kind of just showed up and did your thing, because there will be people who are at your exact level that are going to give into scary season and Thanksgiving and, oh, well, I didn't do any of this work because I took a 3-week break for Christmas and New Year's, even though they're 2 single days. So really just try to think about the fact that we already know that this, for so many people, is mentally the most challenging phase, and just lean into it. Rely on each other, go into Telegram, talk through it. Had a shitty day, and you're probably going to hear back, so what? I bet tomorrow's going to be great. And you just kind of work through it. I think that part of it at this point in the year is more important for you to wrap your mind around than any of the stuff that we just talked about, because we've been doing this for a very long time. And if you guys show up and work hard, you're going to get stronger, more skilled, fitter. All of the stuff is going to continue to improve. We know how to do that, but we also need to be able to convince you guys to lock in when scary season shows up and it's like, fuck, like, do I really want to go into the gym today? It doesn't really matter if you want to go in. Go in anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my final thoughts kind of actually will loop back nicely to what I started with, and I'm sure everybody's really excited to listen to more golf. But if Coach Hunter could coach golfer Hunter as effectively as Coach Hunter could coach someone who's not Hunter, he would say to himself that, like, in this period of the off season, like, you have to be willing to stack, like, not stack, but like accumulate bad days, because not every day is a good day. And as part of the learning curve, as part of developing new skills, as part of like getting better, there is that one step, back to take 2 steps forward. And you have to be willing to go through a period of grinding a little bit, of working on things at a, maybe at 50% speed, or at a level that that you could certainly exceed if you had to, but not in your current state, or like at the skill level that you want to be able to do it at come February or March, right? So like, this is the time of year when it's not only just shitty outside, at least for us in the Northeast, like the dark ages sort of thing, but like, you have to be willing and accepting that, like, for every dog shit muscle up that you do, like, you had to do a shitload of dog shit muscle ups in order to get to a place where your muscle ups are really good. Like, nobody who's really good at muscle ups doesn't have a backlog of dog shit muscle ups behind them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a bit of a kind of like barrier to entry. You have to kind of go through the days that feel like shit, where you're moving like shit, where you just can't connect the power position, you just can't make the right hip contact, you just can't time it all correctly, because like, that is what is required to eventually be able to do all of those things. So don't get lost. Just keep plugging away, keep doing the dog shit, assuming that you're working towards something a little bit better.
Really cool transformational things in life require rite of passage, and every athlete that I know that has ever done anything great in this sport specifically, and probably anything great in general, has had that moment where they clicked over from, I didn't want to do this, so I didn't do it, to, I didn't want to do this and I did it anyways. And that is a rite of passage. And the question is, are you going to go through that to then ascend to another level as an athlete? Or are you going to stay in the mode of like, well, I'd be able to hit my numbers, but I love cookies, or whatever. Just so many different things. Like, I'd be a better runner, but I don't run. Like, you can think of all of the different things that would apply.
I would have won that workout if I was just a little bit fitter.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And sometimes it takes something specific. Like, we have these stories of so-and-so lost out on the games by, we've had 1 snatch and we've had 0.052 seconds. We've had
point on the leaderboard.
1 point on the leaderboard more than once. We've had 1 squat clean. We've had a lot of those things, and those moments retire people. Even though it's like, well, fuck, that's really impressive that you made it that far, actually. Yeah. Or more often than not, the story ends up rewriting itself as like, if the version of me that didn't take care of my sleep and didn't take the supplements and didn't, you know what I mean? Like, just do all of these things, was able to get within 1 snatch. If I start doing what I'm supposed to do, now what can I accomplish? That kind of thing. So it is a rite of passage. And a bunch of you are going to make it through that and come out the other side and, be better than you thought you could have been. And we might lose some of you in the process. And listen, you go get signed up for GPP, you stay right in fucking Telegram, and you join the rest of us. But if you're looking to get after it in the competitive season, now is the time to double and triple down on being resilient and asking a little bit more of yourself. Can we do it?
Done.
All right, guys, I'm going to turn the free trials back on, but I'm only going to do it for a week. So the free trials are going to be on for all of our programs, every single program that we have, Pro, Comp, GPP, Hatchet, Masters, Misfit Affiliate, all that good stuff. I'm going to turn those on from now when you're listening to the podcast through the end of week 1 of phase 2. Week 1 of phase 2 is testing. So it's going to sound a little bit different than what we talked about, and that's when you get into the meat of the phase here in week 2, which will be Monday, November 10th. But yeah, you can head to Fitter or Strivey through the link in bio on our Instagram and get signed up for 1 week free trial. You get to see all this stuff, and again, you would kind of want to set that free trial to be set up for Monday, November 3rd is when you're going to see that, although you get to see a week in advance. So I digress. If you're looking for our affiliate programming, teammisfit.com, click on the sign up now button. You get 2 weeks for free at SugarWOD, Stream Fit, or Push Press. See you next week.
Misfits!
All right, you ragtag bunch of misfits.
You're a scrappy little misfit, just like me.
Biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.